Hi everybody, welcome to Bello's. My name is Catherine, and today I'm going to show you how I created this card that I'm calling Stuck on You using the Wallace family from the Lavinia line of stamps. Before I begin, I just want to ask if you would take a moment to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It really does go a long way in helping us to continue to bring you videos using Lavinia Sweet Poppy, Cardio, and lots of other fun stamp lines. So let's go ahead and get right into our video and talk about the supplies that you need to create this design. For today's card, I will be using Lavinia products. I have a piece of multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock that I have trimmed down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. This really is a great cardstock to blend with, so if you haven't tried it, I do highly recommend it. I have a piece of black cardstock to map my project on, and that is 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and then a 5 by 7 card base. For stamps, I'll be using the Wallace family LAV 531, the single miniature heart, which is LAV 243. I have the fairy charms. We'll be using both of the heart-shaped charms in our design today, and that is LAV 688. I have the Lavinia Moon LAV 431, and I also have gone ahead and cut out a mask, so you'll want to use some masking paper or stamp it and just cut it out using copy paper. And I like to keep mine just right in the back of my stamp so they're handy for the next time. I'll be using the flower from the Flora set LAV 698, the Witch Hazel, which is LAV 1007. I have the acetate hill masks. A lot of times I like to use my mini hill mask, but this is a landscape card, and so we'll need to be using something that's a little bit wider. So you'll want the larger of the acetate hill mask for this, or you can create your own using copy paper. And then I have the orbs mask. I have a variety of blending brushes from Lavinia. Again, I really love these brushes, highly recommend them, but you'll see in my videos that I have a couple different types that I like to use. Today we're using those. I have a Versa marker to help me fill in any gaps in my stamping, and then some extra brushes just to use my pan pastels. I have my white Uniball gel pen, and then I also have the Signo glitter pens or sparkling gel pens, and I'm using the silver and the red today. I'll be using pan pastels in titanium white, and this one I believe is the magenta extra dark, so we'll be using those in our design. For inks, I have Lavinia Elements in confetti, pink elephant, flying fig, lime punch, pine, graphite, and then midnight blue. And then just a couple of VersaFine Clair inks in strawberry, baby pink, and fallen leaves. Let's pull it all together and get started. To begin today's project, I am going to stamp my moon in baby pink. And I'm going to try to get it as close to the center of my card as possible. So we'll just ink it up really well with this pink. And give it a stamp and then turn it about halfway, 90 degrees, and stamp it again. And then there we have our stamp. The next thing I'm going to stamp is my hedgehogs because I also want to make sure that I know where the placement goes before I start working with this background. So I'll be stamping them in Fallen Leaves by VersaFine Claire. And I'll put them right under the moonlight. Now I'm going to blot my image just to make sure I don't smudge any of this ink and it's nice and dry. We can start working our background. For a previous project, I did create a moon mask, but I find that when I'm blending my background heavily with my Elements inks that it tends to lift off. So what I've gone ahead and done is just added a little sticky tape to the bottom, and that should take care of any issues with that coming up. So I'm going to start by blending some confetti from my moon outwards. Nice rosy pink. I'm going to swap out the confetti for some pink elephant and just add a little bit of depth to the outside of that card. So this one is just a little bit darker, and let's make sure we don't have too much. I'll just lightly add it in, and we can build up as we go along. And I'm going to do just around the edges of our card. I want to blend my ink together a little bit more, so I believe I'm going to come back in with some more confetti and just try to blend those colors together. The nice thing about working with multifarious cardstock is that as you blend and add more layers of colors, you'll see that they do begin to blend together well. I'll add a little more pink elephant. And a bit more flying fig. Using my fan brush, I'm going to add some water splatters to create a look of stars to my sky. I'm going to just dab it with my paper towel. Don't rub because that will smear it. Just to pick up the ink that water is lifting off. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in my hill mask and we're going to start to create the hills in the background. So I'm going to start with some lime punch. And now I'm just going to switch that out for pine. At this point, I'm going to focus on the edge of the hill mask and then the corners of my design. At this point, I really want to try to blend some of this purple from my sky into the bottom of my design. So I'm going to bring my mask back and place it over the hill as carefully as I can. And I'm going to use my number 3 stencil brush along with some graphite ink, and we're going to just go along the edge of the hill mask. There we are. Let's work on some more stamping. I want to add a little more pink to my moon, so I'm just going to come back with the ink that's on my brush and fill it in just a little bit, like so. This seems as good a time as any to come back and ground our little hedgehogs. So I'm going to place my mask right under his feet, and we'll just add a little bit of shadow using the ink that's still on our smaller brush. got this guy. Just come back and add a little bit over here. There we go. Now I'm going to come back in and create some trees with my witch hazel to hang my Valentine charms from. So let's go ahead and bring back our copy paper that we have a nice padded surface to stamp on. Making sure I have a nice padded surface to stamp on, I'm going to come back in and stamp my witch hazel trees using fallen leaves. And I'm going to come back and fill that in just a moment. So I'm going to switch it out for the smaller one that we'll put on the other side. Using my Versa marker, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the ink from here, and we're just going to draw the bottom of that tree branch in. Just fill it right in. There we go. And of course, if you wanted to, you could come back and add a little bit more grounding to that tree. And that looks pretty good there. Okay. Let's go ahead and add our Valentine charms. So I'm going to use a piece of paper as a mask just to help me place those charms. And let's see. Put that one there. There's maybe one here. And I'm going to do a third one up here. I'm just switching it out for the other heart in that set. At this point, I'm going to come back with my VersaFine Clair and Strawberry and stamp a little tiny heart right over my two hedgehogs. There we go. color in the hearts that are dangling from my tree. Now you could do this using a Posca pen. I think today I'm going to use my sparkling gel pens. I'm going to use my sparkling gel pens. And I'm going to outline the moon with my silver gel pen. Using fallen leaves, I'm going to come back and stamp in some florals from the Flora set. So I'll add lots of those just in the foreground. I'm going to use an extra dark magenta pan pastel just to fill in the bodies on my hedgehogs. And give them a little bit of color. And that also masks the hills that are a little bit behind them. There we go. Now I'm going to add some highlighting details to my hedgehogs and some of the florals in my foreground. And I'm going to use a damp paper towel just to help me keep the ink moving on my gel pen. They sometimes tend to get a little stopped up, and this just helps to keep it going. So I went through and really just highlighted just about everything, all of the flowers on the bottom, my trees, and even a little bit on my hearts. My finishing touch to this is to come back with some white pan pastels and my orb stencil. I'm just going to add some magical orbs all over. And here we go, my card topper is finished. I want to thank you for joining me today and remind you that if you're not already a member of our Facebook groups, we have Del Bello's Designs Lounge for projects made using Lavinia stamps and Del Bello's a la carte for projects made using all other stamp lines that Del Bello's had in their shop. If you do join our groups, please do share your projects and designs. They really do go a long way to help all of us inspire each other. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.